We're trying to build the brains of factories or intelligence for factories. The long-term vision is, can you make manufacturing a software-based industry rather than a hardware-based industry? There are about $8 trillion of waste today in factories.
The problem statement will not be solved till the time the hardware doesn't match up to the software capabilities, because I think there's a limit, an extent to which we can improve production just by visibility.
The way we think about our vision is, if we can create this data layer, well, this is source of truth, then we can start building agents for every part of the process.
According to you, as per your vision, how does a completely technically integrated AI-led factory looks like, say 5 years, 10 years from that you vision as the North Star?
I almost think most factories are written lights off, where it just runs. You need to make judgment on customer orders and relationships. I think relationships are something that humans are good at.
Hi. Hi, Adithya. Thank you so much for taking out time to speak with us today. It's really great to have you on, but you could start with a quick introduction about yourself, what you're trying to build, and then we can follow on from there.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I'm Adithya. I'm from a small place called Srivilpur in the south of India. But right now I'm speaking from San Francisco. Quick background about me. My dad does manufacturing. That's how I got involved in the manufacturing space. And was an engineer at Princeton, and then was at business school at Harvard, where we started Takt alongside Will Zunker, who's a PhD at MIT, who also worked in the factory space and production optimization. And what we're building at Takt is quite simple. We're trying to build the brains of factories or intelligence for factories. And what we mean by that is there's a lot of different pieces of information in a factory, be it machine level data, customer data, sales data, production demand data. They all live in different systems. So we're trying to make it easy for the user, the company, to access that information, be it through customized dashboards or integrating different data sources, and then allowing them to just ask questions in natural language to do analysis and improve factory production. And what keeps us going, or the long-term vision is, can you make manufacturing a software-based industry rather than a hardware-based industry? And if you do that, there are about $8 trillion of waste today in factories, be it inefficiencies, material waste, things like that. Can you put a dent in that number? That's what keeps us going.
All right. Thank you for that. That's quite insightful. There does exist technologies like sensor level data through SCADA, and then there is the MES system, which sort of helps in strategic operational shop floor decision making. But why do you still think that factories operate blindly, if I were to put it like that? What is the problem, given that there are systems in place already?
Yeah, for sure. So you can think of it as there's sensors which collect data, which go to a data historian. There is your ERP system, which is the SAP, Rockwell, or Siemens. There's sometimes, if it's a bigger company, there is your Salesforce and CRM system. One, you still need to know how to use SQL and Excel or any sort of querying techniques, which most people in a factory don't know how to do. Two, because these are disparate sources of information, you can have different data entered for the same line item. So there's this reconciliation error, like the finance department and the inventory department and the production department could have different amount of raw material used, as a very simple example. So at the end of the month, you're like, oh, what was the right amount? And you need to talk to a lot of people and reconcile it. So being AI native helps us. One, you can just do all of this with questions and English, and you have context built in. And two, we can integrate into all of those systems and be a layer on top. And that's why we like to think of ourselves as the intelligence layer. We're not in the business of collecting the information at any point.
Got it. So essentially, simplification of again the querying process so that the data becomes more usable to the management. I'm assuming management at the lower levels as well. Uh, um, I think there's an interesting use case, but do you think the marginal utility or the benefit derived from the ability to query and of course visualization, etc., do you think the marginal utility is enough for organizations to pay for another software? Or
That's a really good question. Um, I would put it this way. If all the information in the internet was given to you in a file, which it can be, without Google, would you still be able to use it? And does Google provide the marginal utility? Is a question. I don't know. It feels like it does because it seems to be a pretty valuable company. But I was reading an article by Glean, which does enterprise search for uh, enterprises, like not factories, but other companies. And it was the exact same question in the article. It was like, oh, how do you quantify this? How do you show value? How do you quantify this? And he gave the same exact example. And they're about a $500 billion company now, I think, or $500 million company. Um, so they're doing quite well. And I think there are a lot of parallels. Datadog is the same example in a very different industry as well, where they're an observability layer, which is just, hey, I make it easy for you to understand your data. We go one step further of you can apply rules of, hey, if this is going beyond a certain range in the sensor data, can you send me a warning immediately? So that will reduce like the number of mistakes made. If the line goes down, can you warn some alarm bells? And then where we're seeing use cases, and this is real use case, is they're able to make strategic decisions of most of my customers, all of my orders are coming from these 8 customers, and this is the period it's coming from. So let me focus over there. So that's the parallel I will give is yes, in the information exists. We're not saying we're collecting any new information, but making it usable is also a big value add.
yeah, got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. And thank you for this. Just a couple of more questions that I had. So if you firstly just want to understand a little bit more, what was the problem personally that frustrated you enough to say that, hey, I mean, this is something that I'd like to solve, or hey, this has to exist, right? You told me your family business has been in manufacturing, so you firsthand witnessed the problem. But again, which part made you feel like, hey, this is something that needs to be solved and needs to be solved really well now?
Yeah, the honest answer is we came to this problem through multiple pivots, not through, oh, I had an epiphany and this was the exact problem I wanted to solve. Uh, the the thing that got me excited was I want to build something that is of service to society and has an impact on society at scale. I want to have global scale impact. And the things I have gravitated towards in life was technology. I really like engineering. I really like social impact. I built a nonprofit before this in education and business. I think business and being profitable is really important to scaling the impact globally. So in the intersection, I found that, oh, manufacturing as a space is ripe for disruption. And I learned about just the scale of inefficiency through the stat I shared earlier of $8 trillion of waste. And the first kind of problem we wanted to solve was energy efficiency in factories. Uh, can you build batteries to help them move away from generators and store energy and also do like fluctuation based pricing? Um, and it kind of worked, but we were importing the batteries from China and tariffs happened. And that business was difficult to continue. And the big learning there was one, hardware is really hard. I was an electrician. I was installing these batteries. It takes a lot more time to deploy. And I also realized I don't want to do anything related to geopolitics. Uh, would it impacted by geopolitics, rather? Um, so then a problem we kept hearing while doing that was everyone kept asking for, can you help me improve production? Like that's the problem I care most about. Can you help me improve my production capacity? And I have all of this information. We, during that spirit, we didn't really focus on that problem statement. And I think eventually we pivoted to, oh, this seems like a even bigger problem and energy efficiency. So let's focus on that. So that's how we landed in this space.
Okay, that's interesting. But so contributing to your, I would say, larger thesis of trying to make production more efficient, if I were to, it could be through solving production problem directly, or solving that, or reaching that goal through solving the data problem, right? Which is the
Yeah,
order route of reaching there. um,
sure.
but do you think that the problem statement will not be solved till the time the hardware doesn't match up to the software capabilities? Because I think there's a limit, an extent to which we can improve production just by visibility.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's spot on. All I'll say is you need the software to exist for the hardware to match up. And the reason is you need a common source of truth. And the way we think about our vision is if we can create this data layer, well, this is source of truth, then we can start building agents for every part of the process. We can build a production scheduling agent. We can build a supply chain management agent. We can build something for inventory. And once we do that, hardware will be a requirement, and maybe we get into hardware directly. Or you have companies like Figure and a lot of these physical intelligence who are doing like robotics, like straight up really cool robotics stuff. Can we be the platform that open sources our information for them to run on? We don't need to be the best at everything. I'd rather be the platform solution for them.
Yeah, that's quite a noble thought. I mean, the fact that you're willing to open source at a later stage to contribute to the whole ecosystem, I think that's great. Um, and okay, so just wanted to understand in terms of your tech layer, right, or the tech stack that you're using. I'm sure there are a couple of integrations that are possible through different system, like you mentioned. What does your underlying architecture look like?
Yes, there's multiple things. One, okay, the first part, if I have to walk through it end to end, the first part is APIs integrated to build some sort of data layer. Then there's a lot of algorithmic work to understand and kind of clean the data, because the data is mostly bad. It's not great quality data. So we need to kind of discern, oh, are these a bunch of zeros in a temperature sensor because the sensor wasn't working, or are these actual zeros? Because a simple question like tell me the average will otherwise take the wrong answer. Um, so there are some algorithms we run on just cleaning that. And from there, the next step for us is pre-processing before sending it to an LLM layer. And by pre-processing, we have built an agentic framework to determine what kind of agent would best answer this question. And what I mean by that is something like an average or maximum, minimum. Uh, the best kind of agent is something that just writes Python code to solve it. Because it's a mathematical question. You don't need like pure play LLM to do that. Whereas a question like, hey, in the maintenance manual, check what I should do if this error shows up, for example. For that, it's good to throw it into the LLM because that's what LLMs are really good at. So we have built a system which determines, okay, which kind of agent do I use? And then it goes into an LLM. We use Claude and OpenAI's through API connection. And after that, for us, the most important metric is reducing hallucination and making sure we're extremely accurate. So we do a lot of post processing as well, which is why we're probably a little bit slower to get to an answer. It takes maybe like 10 seconds instead of 2 seconds. But after we get an answer, we ref check it with the source using another LLM call of, hey, check if this answer is correct. And then we do some processing work on making sure the answer looks and feels the same. So if it's a graph, it'll be the same colors. You won't have different colors at different points. If you do it in ChatGPT, you'll have different colors. The same type factors, same font, same style of tone, and all of that. and then we give the answer with references. So they can always check where they got the data, how they got the data, and which file, and all of that. I think that's the whole architecture, and it's constantly changing. One, because we're improving, and two, because the AI world is changing. So some things are becoming easier. Sometimes you need to be more careful with things.
And as of this moment, like, how are you defining your TAM basically? Is it the number of factories, number of operation lines? Like, at what level of cut are you defining your audience?
Yeah. On this stage, we would like to be very focused. So we have to be very specific about our TAM. It's mid-market companies in the US and in India. Those are the two markets we're looking at. Uh, that do continuous manufacturing. So we're industry agnostic, but we work better with companies that produce things in a standardized way at scale versus a job shop that does custom fabrication of 3 parts. And in terms of the size of the company, it's roughly between like 10, 20 million to about 200 to 500 million. And in terms of people, about 50 people to 1,000 people would be the size. So we're very focused on the mid-market layer rather than enterprise or small.
Are you also focused on the new age startups, like the fast scaling modern manufacturing setup? Does that seem to be a good market for you right now?
Not as much. And also, I didn't come across a lot of them. If you know a lot of them, we're happy to partner. We just don't have exposure. I've met a lot of old school industries, but the modern manufacturers generally either they have like these huge plays, they raise like 50 or $500 million, and it's like Foxconn.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good fit because they're probably building everything in house.
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, that's the point that I wanted to also think about, that in, say, 5 years or 10 years from now, when the
Yeah.
hardware capabilities come through proportionately to the software and the systems that we're building, a lot of that data and a lot of the capabilities and the proposition that you offer might be integrated into the hardware capabilities itself. How do you plan to reinvent, protect yourself against that? And let's say, how do you plan to solve in case the current ERP systems or the other systems decide to incorporate the intelligence capability on top of what they're solving?
Yeah. I think I would say we would be best positioned to be the integration layer if that ends up happening. And we would like to go closer. I really, to certain parts of SpaceX and Tesla, I really admire, and one of them is being vertically integrated. So I really believe in being fully vertically integrated. Right now, we layer on top of SAP and all the systems. We would like to keep going one layer down until we're directly at PLC level code. So we're integrated directly into the machines. There's no layers in between. That's how we think about going down. And then we also plan to go upstream. So the CRM and all of that, we can take care of it. And if that's the case, then the hardware company is better off doing hardware and having us as a partner rather than trying to build this one.
That's a great answer. I mean, thanks for that. Another thing is that, according to you, as per your vision, how does a completely technically integrated AI-led factory looks like, say, 5 years, 10 years from now, that you vision as the North Star?
It's humans only make judgment. That's the only job of humans, and maybe some physical things that robots might be struggling to do. Other than that, there is no real thing that a human needs to do. And I almost think most factories will become lights off, where it just runs. You need to make judgment on customer orders and relationships. I think relationships are something that humans are good at, or certain one-off black swan events, white swan events where you need to increase or decrease production. Other than that, and also even when that happens, they should be able to change it from their houses. They can just log into a computer and change things and the factory changes. Well, it's very much like a Tesla car where it's a software product with hardware endpoints rather than a hardware first approach. That's what I envision. The funny thing is, I think this vision already exists. in China. I spent about a month in China and just to learn about the factories there, and they have phenomenal capabilities. So for me, it is, can the whole world do that? And can we help the whole world do that? That's what excites me.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, China is the North Star when it comes to manufacturing capabilities. Is there any under discussed risk in manufacturing tech right now? I know there are a lot of players who are again uh, building intelligence layer, of course, and integration of multiple data sources. But is there an under discussed risk that comes when you're doing that, given the heterogeneity of data and data sources?
Only discuss risk. Um, Two things come to mind. The first one is, are you doing AI for AI's sake versus are you actually solving a problem? And we're focused on, can you automate paperwork? It might sound rudimentary. It might sound like compliance paperwork, for example. But I think really focused on the problem of the factory rather than, oh, this is a cool tool and just being a co-pilot. Um, I think that's a big risk because it's cool to have a co-pilot. I don't know if factories actually know what to do with it today. And there's this education layer that needs to be built, right? Of, hey, this is how you could use it. This is how it fits in your workflows. And for me, I think it's rather more important to prove ROI for that and prove that, okay, financially you're benefiting from this, and then going deeper and building like the full stack layer. And the second thing I would say it's probably like the elephant in the room with AI, but I like to think of it first is what happens to people with all of AI, right? Like what happens to jobs? Uh, do you have to educate them? And that's something because we want to build a social enterprise. We are not, that's our focus. So we think about it every day. And there is a real risk of maybe you don't need more people. Maybe you're not firing people. I think people talk a lot about that. You're not firing people, but now you can do the same job with 5 people versus like 15. So you don't hire the next 10. Um, so what happens then? And I think it's a lot to do with education. So our whole approach has been, we teach you how this works. We let you like run it. Eventually, when we get to scale, we would love to set up a separate arm, just teach people and enable them for an AI native world. But that is a big risk that I think it's easy to look past if you're just growing or focused on growth recklessly.
That's a fair dilemma that comes with any and every enterprise that's solving and building for the future, which has an AI angle to it, because workforce reduction
Mhm.
in some way or some form ends up being part of the business case when that business is being pitched, because that's how it's being sold right now. Talking about business cases, how do you quantitatively justify your platform? Are there any figures that you've worked out that you currently use in your pitch?
So it's been case by case just because we're so early and we are both engineers, so we don't like just throwing numbers out there without a strong scientific backing. And my co-founder specifically told me you cannot be just saying random numbers. So one case we've seen is throughput improvement by roughly like 5-10%. Um, and so that's like your top line. Another case we've seen is bottom line growth, where they like cut down waste, downtime, costs by about 2 to 5%. So those are then like our two big cases. The other big area is this we actually are quantitatively backed. The time to do analysis has gone from 5 hours to 5 seconds on one of the factories we run. Like, and that was like a big win for us where they now just use Takt to do any sort of analysis. And analysis has been democratized in the company, where instead of one person who knew how to do data analysis work, uh, people can ask questions. And now anyone becomes an analyst, including the CEO.
Of course, that definitely solves the visibility problem for sure. That makes that's the like the primary proposition. Are you still in the pilot stages, or have you sold any? I mean, seats or
we have a couple of customers in the US and India.
Okay.
So we're on the pilot stage where we're deployed with customers, but still early and still building almost customized solutions for each one. But at some point, we will start standardizing and scale in the next 2 to 3 months. And we'd probably be raising a seed round in April. So post that would be when we scale.
That's quite nice. Congratulations. What is the pricing model like? Are you guys doing per seat, subscription based, freemium?
Open to ideas. Right now, we are very focused on usability and not having churn. Like that's a key metric is, hey, does everyone use this? And there's no one churn because that means the product is really valuable for the price it's getting at. Right now, we want to keep it simple and it's like a fixed monthly price. So it's a subscription price, but there's no like, oh, for this many seats or this many users, unlimited users, this is a price. Eventually, I think we would start playing around with different models to understand that that is something we need to figure out with more data as we collect. Yeah. But we don't want to do per seat because we want everyone in the company to use it. And we don't want to restrict people. And the same thing with number of calls for this many calls, you have this many prices that would restrict people psychologically to using the product. Yeah.
In terms of the unit economics, what do you think is the margin currently that you're working on, and do you think it improves in the future given where you're at, given the scale, etc.?
Yeah. To answer your question on margin, we are a software company. So our margins are relatively high. We actually have not quantified it clearly because we're at such an early stage. And I hope it improves, but we would be unit economics profitable. If you don't, that's something that I believe in. I want to build a sustainable business for the long term. Even though we venture back in India, I have some family business roots that keeps me focused on having a stable, sustainable business. To your earlier question of what does new age manufacturing look like? The vision of new age manufacturing for me is everyone understands exactly what's going on in the factory instantaneously. The gap between data and intelligence is zero. And two, you can now process that and run a factory with just natural language. You don't need to know anything else. You just ask questions or you tell commands and it exchange. I think that's what new age manufacturing is like.
So for the next phase, that say in the next coming year, what is the goal? Is it scale, profitability, or category dominance?
Category dominance, scale, profitability. The honest answer is none of them. The focus for us over 2026 is finding product market fit and making sure this is something that's people love it. People absolutely love it. Because I think with that, all the other things would happen simultaneously. And maybe I am inspired by like Amazon or like something what YC says, right? Like make something useful. And that's what we're really focused on. So for us, it would be proving that there's clear ROI for multiple customers, proving that they are so deep in this that they cannot imagine a world without this product. And then eventually scale would be the next part. Towards the latter half of the year, we would be focused on scale. But the first 6 months, I think, is just finding product market fit. Okay.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And just last thing, I wanted to understand a little bit about how you started off. In terms of, again, funding at the initial level, what is the kind of traction that warehouse intelligence as a sector or manufacturing intelligence as a sector is getting?
Yeah. So one, there's a lot of interest. The market is pretty hot. My view is I would love to be fairly valued, not overvalued, because you still have to justify it. And I am playing my 15-year game, I'm not looking to exit. I think this is a generational company, and we want to change the world. So I'd rather be a steady company. We did about a year of work before we raised, and it was mostly customer discovery and trying to understand the problem. I think it was really important for us to go deep before we even built any product or anything like that of what is the problem? Why is this important? What's the market size? The kinds of questions you're asking. So I visited factories. I visited factories in China and India, in the US, seeing what are the commonalities, what are the differences, what are the major problems each one faces. Um, and then we raised a small pre-seed from Pair, and they backdoor Dash, Gusto. They're one of the big pre-seed seed funding companies here in the Bay. Um, and we're doing their accelerator program starting in January. So from Jan to March for 3 months, we're doing the accelerator. And that's when we would raise our seed after the accelerator.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you so much, Aditya. I think that's all from my side. Uh, that was very interesting because we covered all aspects of it, and hopefully, post this, a lot of people will get a better understanding of what's happening in the sector. How have you scaled? What are you trying to solve? What is the vision for the future? And that's the goal. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
your.
No, for sure. Thank you. And for anyone listening, if you have a factory, come talk to me. We would love to partner with you. So please come talk to me.